For many men, from a young age, they're told that life is a competition, that they need to be better than their friends and their peers. They need to be better at sports. They need to be cooler. They need to be taller. They need to be better looking. They need to earn more money in order to succeed in life and to get the relationships and the outcomes that they want. They're also told that there's only so much to go around. So if someone else is succeeding, they're falling behind. But these mindsets are hurting men, they're limiting their potential and damaging their mental health. So in this video, we're going to talk about these damaging narratives, how they influence men and broader society, why they're damaging, and how to shift your mindset so that you can break free from societal expectations that have control over you. Welcome back to the YouTube channel for Catch. My name is Sam and I am the founder and lead coach here at Catch. Unshakable confidence is the key to getting everything that you want in life and dating. So on this channel, we teach you how to build that unshakable confidence and become the most unstoppable version of you. If you're interested in working with us in any way or learning more about us, you can find all of that information in the description box below. We're also running a free to enter competition where you can win prizes worth up to £250, so check that all out below. So much of the messaging aimed at men from a young age through to adulthood talks about life as a competition, both explicitly and implicitly. If you look at the hobbies that men are often pushed towards, these are individual or team sports, or things like working hard and becoming a provider, and the narrative is around those that you either succeed or you don't. You're at the top of the totem pole or you're at the bottom of the totem pole, and therefore it teaches men early that their success is compared to other people. It's not about how happy they are, how fulfilled they are, whether they have the sort of lifestyle that they want or the sorts of relationships that they want, whether that's friendships or romantic relationships. But a lot of men's lives and boys' lives are circled around the fact that you could be doing better. How are you doing compared to your peers or those that you are competing with in these different life circumstances? And even school, to an extent, does this to us as well through exams and set curriculums that people have to go through. And although that provides a good grounding for life and always wanting to improve yourself, the comparative aspect is what is damaging, and we're particularly seeing that in men. Also, the very essence of competition can be linked to defining how much someone is a man or a real man, or how masculine they are. So not only are men from a young age taught to compete, try and gain control, gain power, be at the top of their game, be dominant over others and compare themselves to other men, but they are also taught that how much of a man they are is directly linked to those outcomes and to how much better they are than those around them based on this very narrow definition. And we did do another video earlier in this Unstoppable Man series about the very limited definitions put onto men, saying that their value is around being a protector and provider. So we do go into more detail in that video. So we'll link that down below. So because of these narratives that shape how men see themselves from a young age, they begin to define their worth and their value and their confidence based on how far am I up the totem pole, based on these very limited definitions of what a man is, and where am I on that totem pole, and they're continually assessing where they are on that totem pole. Because of that, it becomes very isolating. So if you're a man that believes that you're in competition with not just other men, but women, non-binary people, anyone who you come across for money, jobs, the relationships that you want, then it becomes very difficult to be vulnerable with those people, genuinely connect with those people and let yourself form connections with them, because at a deep innate level, you feel like if push comes to shove, I need to be able to beat them, I need to be able to defeat them, I need to be able to get them out of my way to achieve what I want to achieve. So there's an interlink between how men see themselves, this theory of competition, and then not being able to build deep relationships. Linked with a scarcity mindset that there's only so much to go around, this also results in men being afraid of or battling against anything that could be seen to level the playing field. So any DEI initiatives, which we've seen a backlash in the Western world against DEI initiatives, anything that could lift other people up feels like a threat, because if there's only so much to go around and we're all in competition, then helping this person over there who is less advantaged than me, perhaps they come from a poorer background or they're in a minority, means that it's taking away from me and my opportunities. And if I have less opportunity to reach the top of the totem pole or higher on the totem pole, I'm not going to get what I want out of life. So you very quickly end up with this very toxic mindset that you can't get close to others because you're in competition with them, but also you're constantly comparing yourself and you want to be higher up that totem pole than others or where you were before. You're constantly overanalyzing or admonishing yourself about, right, how can I earn more money? How can I get stronger? How can I get better looking? How can I impress those around me so that I have more control and power so that I don't lose it? What it can do is trigger this fear response or this ongoing fight or flight. And you can see this in people who have those characteristics. So there are people in the world and men in the world who are billionaires, multi-billionaires. I think Elon Musk, with his new pay package at Tesla, is set to become the first trillionaire. And still, many of those people seem unhappy. You have people like Elon Musk, who continues to get more and more power, continues to get more and more money, is funding elections to try and influence politics around the world, is trying to get close to political movements to gain more power and control. And even then, he turns against some of those people that he's funding. So he, very publicly fell out with Donald Trump in the US. And you think, to what end is this getting to? Because you've got all this money in the world, you're trying to influence politics, and yet you look at someone like Elon Musk, he doesn't seem to have any people around him who support him or love him or care for him. And so that doesn't seem like success from where I'm sitting. So not only does it not feel like success, and you've got people who have achieved or got to the top of some of these characteristics or these outcomes, and they don't seem happy. And they're constantly in fight or flight or survival mode, trying to get more and do more, and it's not fulfilling them, it's not giving them what they want and need out of life. But also, it's not recognizing that each of us has unique traits and characteristics that make us special. We each have unique value that we bring to the world. So we might spend our whole lives chasing these outcomes to try and impress others and get further up this metaphorical totem pole of the high value man, or of masculinity, or of real men, through chasing things that aren't even important to us, or aren't fulfilling to us, or don't matter to us deep down. So it becomes even more lonely and isolating. We become more resentful, more angry, and we're not sure why, because we've got the things that society told us were important to us. And for the average person, they may be content and fulfilled in what they have, but then go on to social media and this feeling of competition is exacerbated. So previously, before social media, those comparison levels would only be with the people on our street, the people in our village, keeping up with the Joneses. But now with social media, people can project a certain lifestyle that they don't have, or they can want and desire a lifestyle that others have, and always feel like they're behind. So not only is it a zero-sum game, because we may not achieve the things that would actually make us happy and fulfilled in our life, which wrecks our confidence, our mental health, and how we feel about ourselves, But we may actually have a life that we're content with, but then we end up comparing ourselves to those around us, and it makes us feel worse. We also see this when it comes to dating. So because for men, a lot of them are brought up to believe in competition and that they need to be better than those around them, some men use dating as a way to elevate their status. So some men, without even knowing it, want to have a wife or a partner or a husband, and they want to have children, not because they want to raise those children or nurture a lifelong relationship and the growth that comes with that, but because they want the elevated or the perceived elevated status that comes with being married and having children, even if that's not the right lifestyle choice for them. It can also affect the type of partners that men can choose. And all of these things apply to women and non-binary people as well. But because this is the Unstoppable Man series, we're talking mainly about examples to do with men. So some men will chase and go for partners because they think it will impress their peers and elevate their status. So there are a lot of men online who talk about, look, women just need to be attractive. Men just want a nice, quiet, perhaps submissive woman who is attractive. But what's interesting is when you interrogate what about those traits they like, it's actually to do with helping them feel better and help feed their ego and make them feel more confident in this world where everything is a competition. Because these women who are perhaps quieter and more submissive, they don't add any drama or, and I say that with quotes, drama or difficulties to a man's life on top of the stress of work. And having an attractive partner can elevate your status with other men. And having someone a partner that will centre them and take care of everything at home whilst they, get to feel like the big man because they earn more money. And again, I say this all with one big air quote. So because they get to, earn the money, which makes them feel like more of a man, and they've got, say, a wife and family at home who centre them and take care of everything else, they also get to then continue pursuing their hobbies and going to the gym and doing the things that make them feel like a man, as well as having, the status symbol of a wife and kids or a partner and kids. And these people also centre their lives around the man, and he perhaps has more power and control because he earns the money. So all of that feeds a man's ego in this competitive world. A man can feel better about himself because he's doing the masculine thing of earning money, and he's got this family who centre him and doesn't add more burden and stress to him. It can also affect how men see and feel about work. So something that we hear from men quite often is, I don't want a partner who creates drama because all day I'm going and attacking the day. I've got this battle at work, and the language is really interesting, right? It's like I've got this fight, I've got this battle, and I'm on my mission. And that mission might be that they go and work in a tech company, right, doing coding, which is important work. But people who are like doctors in war zones, I think you can use the word mission more directly to people in those types of roles. But it's just very interesting that men talk about their corporate careers in this way, right? Or, I've got a battle, I've got a mission, I've got something that I need to achieve each day. And that's why they're so exhausted, because they're not just going to work and doing a job or trying to do the best job that they can or progress their career in a way that provides to their family to the extent that they want to and provides them with happiness and fulfillment and learning and growth, or achieve some things they want to achieve. It is this continuous battle of having to prove myself, having to posture, having to fight with other men, be seen as the best leader, and be the one that people respect the most and has the most control and power in that workplace. So the whole mindset makes work much more exhausting rather than just seeing it as a vocation to learn and grow and develop, which is what life is about, right? Fulfillment, learning, growth, joy. And then they want everyone in their life to fit a certain mold that eases the feeling of competition that they have, rather than looking at a partner and saying, actually, I want someone who I can grow with, who I can learn from, where we both bring the best out of each other. It's like, actually, I want this partner who's secondary to me, because they just want to feel better than someone. And if a man can feel like, well, at least I'm better than other races or other genders, other sexes or other countries, then at least there's whole swaths of people I don't need to worry about. I only need to compare myself to the other men who I work with or who are around me, rather than thinking I'm in competition with the whole world. Particularly when you add that scarcity mindset of there's only so much to go around, life suddenly becomes very exhausting. So to summarize what we've said so far, you can see how this mindset or this perception of being in constant competition is exhausting for men. You can't win because you're constantly, you're always going to find on social media someone who earns more, is taller, is better looking, is more muscly, or better at the things that you want to excel at. Even if you achieve something, because the mindset is I always need to be getting better and better than others, not better than yourself, then you're always in fight or flight, always trying to improve, but in a toxic way than what you were doing before. So you basically can't win. You then don't want others to succeed because you see that as being taken away from yourself. And so you don't want to be vulnerable or form connections with others, because then it's harder to beat them. It's harder to want to overtake them or do better than them. And we don't form real or fulfilling or joyful connections, whether that's friendships or relationships, because we see them as our competition. And so we either seek out people that we feel better than, or people that feed our ego, or we seek out people who we think will make us more powerful or have more control. So we seek out people who maybe we feel are on our level or just above, so that we can continue to rise up that perceived metaphorical totem pole. So the whole thing is exhausting. It's a competition that we can never win, and often takes us off track from what really makes us happy and fulfilled, and having deep and meaningful relationships and having joy in our lives. So what can we do instead? How do we break free from this cycle? And it's difficult to do, but it can be done, and it may require multiple steps. The first thing is to start observing your own thoughts and patterns. So for a week, once or twice a day, reflect on the day and think about what things triggered you, what things made you feel really confident and powerful, and what things were difficult or brought up negative feelings. And reflect on, what was it about that situation, or what someone said, or what someone did, or how perhaps you reacted to something that caused that reaction? What is it that made you feel so confident? What is it that made you perhaps feel less confident? And reflect on that. Also reflect on what gives you energy and what depletes you. So when you come out of a situation, did it give you energy, or did it take away energy? And again, reflect on what about that circumstance or that situation gave or withdrew energy from you. And again, reflect on that. So journal on it for a week, or as long as you want, until you have some insights. Then look at, okay, of these things, what about what is giving me confidence or happiness is external, and what about it is internal? And we talked about this in other videos. If your happiness and your confidence and how you feel about yourself is internally driven, so for example, you're living by your values, perhaps integrity is very important to you, respect is important to you, being honest is important to you. When you live by those values, that typically will give you energy. If you are using external validation to make yourself feel good, now that can feel good in the moment, but it is very precarious. So we would recommend writing down what are these external factors and what are the internal factors. And then thinking about, okay, how can I dismantle the external validation that's making me feel good, and how can I become more internally validated? Now, to bring this to life, I'll give you a few examples from my own life. So before going and setting up my own business, both this and I have a consultancy business working with corporates and charities, I was, as I say, quite senior in permanent roles. So I worked for various consultancies within the UK. And because I had progressed to quite a senior level by quite young, I hit director level. I was on the leadership team of a multi-million-pound business before I hit 30. And I was running a multi-million-pound department by the time I was about 26. So because of that, I got very attached to the title. You know, I loved saying that I was a manager, I was a senior manager, I was a director. And I loved introducing myself to clients based on that. And I loved that comparison again of being able to say, oh, I was one of the youngest, I think I was the youngest person to hit each of those grades at the companies I was at. So when I left and set up my own business, I suddenly realised I didn't have that title or that comparison of being senior at a young age within those companies anymore. I was running my own business, so yes, you know, maybe the founder title is exciting, but I couldn't look at a massive team and say, look, I run this team or I run this multi-million-pound department. So I had to dismantle the confidence or perceived confidence that I got from having a certain title and the perceived influence that I had from it, and realise that I could have that confidence just because I'm a good person and I'm good at my job and the value that I bring to the clients that I work with, regardless of whether that's in a company or running my own business, right? So I noticed that very quickly. Also, I've mentioned several times on the channel that I'm very into the gym. I have, and I've been able to achieve certain goals with that, certain aesthetic looks or doing certain competitions or getting to certain strength levels. Now this year I had an injury, so I had to take 4 or 5 months completely off of the gym. And now I'm back, but doing very light work. And I realised how much of my identity was tied up in being someone who went to the gym and did weights and lifted heavy weights. And now I'm back and I'm doing very soft yoga, soft Pilates, and again, I've had to redefine myself and find my confidence without having that part of my identity. So these are some real life aspects where I've realised that a big part of my identity and my confidence came from certain things. You know, even looks, right? Like, I'm comfortable with how I look physically. And so I've tried to challenge myself. You know, I like to get dolled up. I like to have, you know, my hair and my makeup done. So I've challenged myself to go out more and more without makeup. Because if I can feel confident without those crutches of a job title, of certain achievements, of certain ways of looking, then I'll become unstoppable. Because not having those things doesn't hold me back anymore. So reflect on that internal narrative when you feel confident, when you don't. And yes, you can use tools to make yourself feel confident, but you'll become unstoppable if you don't need any of those because you're internally validated. Okay, so how do you become more internally validated? Well, I alluded to it earlier on. It's about living from your own values. So what is important to you, and what do you value? And what do you value in others? So is it integrity, respect, honesty? Is it your compassion, being able to be calm in chaos? Write down what those things are that make you proud internally for how you show up, and perhaps from your week's reflection and journaling, you'll have some inspiration for this or some ideas. So spend some time writing down your values and then start to live your life and make decisions based on those values rather than external validation or things that make you feel powerful and important in an externally validated way. And spend some time articulating, where do you feel like you perform? Where do you feel like you prioritize how others see you over what's important to you? And particularly look at those things from your journaling about where is my energy depleted and what drives that energy depletion? Because often if it depletes our energy, it's because we feel like we have to do something rather than seeing the benefit from it or wanting to do it. So have a look at those things that deplete your energy. Is there any frustration or resentment, and what's driving that? Because that will help expose to you what things you might be doing because you feel like you have to, rather than because you enjoy them. And then with that insight, take those guardrails off and ask yourself, if I didn't have to impress anyone, what would my life look like? What would my dream life look like? What would I be doing if I wasn't posting it on Instagram? What would I be doing if I wasn't worried about when I saw the boys, when I saw the guys, what they would say? And then you can start to figure out, what kind of partner do I really want? What kind of relationship do I want? And what kind of job or career do I want? What do I want that balance or that partnership to look like? What do I want my friendships to look like? Do I wish I could be more emotionally open with them? We did another video on that, how to access your emotions and why pushing your emotions down, which is another limitation put on men, how that negatively affects men. Or would you have a different type of relationship? And then once you've been able to write down, this is what you want your life to really look like, you can move forward from there and start to create a life that looks like that. So for example, for me, flexibility, freedom, and travel is important. Not every single partner or friend is going to be on board with that. Some people want a very settled lifestyle, and that's fine for them. And the type of life that I want to create might be different. But it's about taking those expectations off of you, because once you define that and start creating that life intentionally, you'll also find people who want the same things or who are supportive of that. So it can feel scary at the start, but once you go down that path, you'll realize that life realigns to help you achieve the life that you want. And then you stop caring about the competition and what others think, because you're self-validated, or you're just earning enough money for the lifestyle that you want or what will make you happy, rather than impressing others. That's another thing. So there are some things I'll spend money on. I'll spend money personally on anything to do with health, anything to do with my businesses because I enjoy them and they add value. I'll spend money on anything to do with the gym, which does link to health. I'll spend money on self-care. But I've had the same car for 12 years. I thrift most of my clothes because I realise that, yes, I like to look nice, but I care about the environment. So thrifting is important to me, more so than seeming cool to other people with brands. And I use my car to get around, but I don't care about having a flashy car to impress others. I'd rather have that money to spend on my family or friends or experiences or travel or looking after myself physically and mentally. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that it broke down or helped bring some self-awareness to something that you may be feeling and gave you the permission that you needed to create the life that you want and the tools to do so. Would love to hear your experiences with this. So if this is something that you've overcome or you've been feeling, or you have any questions, would love to hear that down below. Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.